Dr. Neil Boumpani, and welcome to my channel, yourchildseducation.com, where I try to help parents help their children to overcome the failures of the U.S. public education system. Today I'm presenting the second part of a series on educating your child with music. In this, part 2, I'll present a list of musical activities that are based on the findings of research. Research suggests that music has a unique effect on our brains and can help prepare a child for learning. You can use these activities whether you plan to send your child to public schools, private, charter, parochial schools, or even if you plan to homeschool your child. Based on my 40 years in education and everything that is going on in the public schools today, I strongly urge parents to consider homeschoolings. You can homeschool your child for less than $1,000 a year while at the same time giving your child an education that most public school systems can't match. All right, let's get on to the list though. If you watched my first video on the benefits of music in the education of your child, you have a good idea of the research findings. Still, I feel it important to hit on a few highlights from that video to begin with. The research that I explained in part 1 suggested that an education that includes music can help your child in many ways. Here are some of the findings. First, the research suggested that musical instruction in primary school may help students in the following ways: inhibition, planning, and verbal intelligence. Second, children who grow up listening to music develop strong music-related connections in the brain. Some of these connections might actually affect the way a person thinks and reasons. A lot of that research is based on classical music, by the way. 3, the only activity that utilizes every part of the human brain at the same time happens when a person performs on a musical instrument. Other benefits we talked about: music can help boost a child's memory, it can enhance a child's social skills, help a child's self-esteem, help aid in learning to read and building vocabulary. It can also help a child's coordination skills. Okay, let's get to the musical activities that promote education. I'm going to go through this list one at a time. First, expose your child to music as soon as possible. First, I got to warn, never expose your baby to loud music. This could damage your child's hearing. Also, avoid the use of earbuds or headphones on very young children for the same reasons. Now, most people would know that, but I've seen people with headphones on their babies, and it scares me. All right, let's talk more about this. Many studies have suggested that exposing your child to classical music at a young age can have benefits. Why classical music? Well, classical music has a more complex structure. Babies as young as 3 months old can pick out the structure and even recognize classical works they have heard before. In the first video, I explained how I built a cradle for my granddaughter when she was born, and I gave my daughter an MP3 player with 2 small speakers. The MP3 player was loaded with about 3 hours of calming classical music, and Maddie went to sleep every night listening to that music. Since then, she has been open to almost all musical styles and genres, and I can't really say that's research, but there has been research that suggests that there are many benefits to listening to classical music as a child, as a young child. Number 2, from a very early age, rock your child to a steady beat. A child's ability to feel and create a steady beat has been linked to many of the skills associated with learning to read. Of course, with very young babies, you can't move them around too fast. Start by rocking the child either to recorded music or even you singing. And, with the baby, you want to go slow, of course. Third, sing to your child. Singing to your baby helps it to begin to understand words. Babies love the patterns and rhymes of songs, and even young babies can recognize specific melodies once they've heard them. Don't worry about the quality of your voice, just sing. When your child does start to sing with your child is number 4. Of course, your baby may not sing back during the first year, although the baby may try to mimic what you are singing with some, nonsense syllables. But once the baby can form the words, encourage singing as much as possible. Setting words to music actually helps the brain learn them more quickly and retain them longer. That's why we remember the lyrics of a song we might have sang as children, or commercial jingles, even if we haven't heard them in years. Number 5, have your child learn musical instruments. Again, this may have to wait a few years. You don't want your 1-year-old trying to learn an instrument, of course. However, a young child can learn to play an instrument. I can tell you that in most school systems, instrumental music begins around 4th to 6th grade. However, you can start your child as young as 4. Mozart was composing by the age of 5 and performing before royalty at the age of 6. Musical training actually helps a child's brain develop faster. Also, research has linked playing a musical instrument to stronger academic, mental, and even physical skills, like coordination. Number 6, dance with your child. When your child's a toddler, dance with the child to a steady beat. Even if the child just bounces up and down while you hold it, keep trying. It may take time for the child to actually move to the beat, so be patient. Now, this is related to research linking steady movement to language skills. In the process of dancing, you can make up silly songs with easy words. In this way, you will also be adding vocabulary building to the exercise. You can start seeing how these all fit together. Okay, number 7, create a drum set from everyday items. This activity will reinforce the child's ability to move to a steady beat, as well as associating sounds with the words high and low. Child will be developing the temporal lobes that associate sound with meaning. To create a drum set, use everyday items like pots and pans. You can begin to help your child understand the concepts of high and low with regards to sounds. Hit the larger pot and say low in low voice. Hit the smallest pot and say high in a higher tone of voice. Eventually, you can begin to play 2 different sounds and ask your child if the second sound is higher or lower. Now, let me say something about this. If your child should ever want to learn a language like Chinese, the ability to hear inflections in pitch, which means the high and low of sounds, will be helpful. In Chinese, the same word can have different meanings depending upon the pitch of certain syllables. I remember one, and I can't remember exactly, but it had to do with a word that if you said it one way, it meant mother. If you said the same word with an inflection on the wrong syllable, I think it meant dog or something like that. Now, that's not exact, but it's around, that's the idea. All right. Number 8, get your child to pat to a steady beat. As you play a piece of music that has a steady beat, model how you pat your hands on your lap. The music should not be too fast at first and should have a very steady beat. Do not try to get your child to clap to the beat. Let me talk about patting versus clapping. Young children have problems with clapping their hands to a steady beat because the movement is somewhat confusing. It's a lateral movement going across in front of them, and they're not ready for that. Patting, up and down movement, is much easier for young children. 9, have a family band singing night. One of the parents plays guitar or piano. You can lead the way in the family band or sing along. Use various toy instruments or even household items to accompany everyone singing. Here's interesting. If you can find some glow sticks, turn down the lights and create interesting effects. It's an activity that builds all the skills linked to music, but creates family time that also will leave the child with good memories. Children can perform without criticism in this activity. Also helps build the child's self-esteem. Okay, and here's a creative one. Number 10, try a music to art activity. Give your child a piece of paper and crayons or pencils. Play a piece of music and ask that child to draw a picture of what the music means to them. Select musical works that have simple moods and not something that changes mood during the work. Most children's songs have one particular feeling to them. This will help your child express creativity. This is an activity where the child is never really wrong. However, if you play a song that's really upbeat and happy, the child draws a graveyard, you might want to discuss what's going on in the child's mind. Now, if you want to find music in the classical genre, I suggest any of Handel's or Bach's suites, Handel's Water Music Suite or Music for Royal Fireworks. This is Baroque music, actually. It's under the umbrella of classical, but it's from the Baroque era. In that era, when they wrote suites, every little piece in the suite had its own mood, had a steady rhythm, and stayed the same throughout. So it's not something where it might start out happy and then turn sort of sad somewhere. So keep that in mind. I will have a list for works like this on my website. That's www.yourchildseducation.com. Anyway, number 11, teach your child to recognize instruments, both by sight and sound. This is an activity that helps develop your child's ability to hear and interpret sound, strengthening the temporal lobes of the brain. You can find videos on YouTube where professional musicians demonstrate their instruments. I believe the BBC Orchestra has many of them. Have your child listen to several of these, only a few at a time, of course. Then print out some pictures of these instruments on a separate sheets of paper. Without your child watching the computer or screen, play one of those videos so they hear the instrument. Ask your child to point to the correct picture that is represented by the sound. Another piece of music that teaches children to differentiate among the families of instruments, as well as hear each instrument performed in a separate manner, is Benjamin Britten's A Young Person's Guide to the Orchestra. For the first 3 minutes, the child hears the following families of instruments. First, they hear the entire orchestra play a theme. Then the woodwind family, the brass family, the string family, the percussion family, and then the entire orchestra again. Now, after this short introduction, it's 3 minutes, there's quite a bit more to this. It's a 17-minute piece of music. But there are short individual sections that highlight each of the instruments in the orchestra. I recommend that if you do use any of this, just use short sections. Below you'll find a link to one video that lists each instrument and where in the video it can be found. It's like a chapter guide in YouTube. You can simply click the link for flute and hear that particular instrument. Now let me say this. The ability to hear the difference among instruments depends upon hearing the very beginning of any given pitch. You can take two similar instruments, find a pitch that is held for more than 5 seconds, cut off the first second of each, and try to distinguish between the two. It's almost impossible. Try this with maybe a trumpet and an oboe playing the same pitch, if you could find something like that. This activity will be listed for the next 2 age groups because you're building that part of the temporal lobe that's going to be fine-tuned to hear very subtle differences in sound. It's going to help your child language learning and maybe even learn a new language. Number 12, help your child build an instrument. This activity will reinforce the ideas of understanding high and low and create a fun activity where the child can also take some pride in creating something. Remind your child what high and low means in sound. Now, using whatever you have around the house, help your child create an instrument. I have one idea here that how to create a homemade flute. Of course, your child's going to need help with this one because I wouldn't trust a young child with a drill. You can take maybe an 8-inch length of 1/2-inch PVC pipe, drill one large hole close to one end, and then 5 or 6 smaller holes that are in line with the large hole. Plug up the end next to the large hole, by the way. If your child blows across the large hole, like when you blow over the top of an empty bottle and get that tone, if your child creates a pitch and then covers each successive hole, the pitch will get lower. This is because the instrument is being made longer in a sense. Even though the tube is the same length when none of the small holes are covered, the only part of the tube that's actually creating the sound ends at the first open hole. If you make a few of these instruments using PVC tubes of different diameters, of course the sounds will differ. I'm sure you can find dozens of do-it-yourself instruments on the internet. Some of them will require, drilling holes. All right, number 13, play musical games. Musical chairs is an old game that can be fun. Musical freeze is another game when there are not enough children to play musical chairs, or you don't want the children excluded in the musical chairs game when they have to sit out. The freeze game is simple. Play music, have the children dance around till you stop the music, and the child has to stop. The first one to stop is the winner. Again, there are other musical games on the web. I'm sure you could find many of them. Last one, number 14, have a karaoke night. Get an inexpensive karaoke machine and have a Family's Got Talent night. This also helps the child conquer stage fright in the safety of your home. Everyone takes a turn, of course. In the process, the child will be expanding vocabulary, enjoying making music. Now, if you add movement to the singing, the steady beat concept is also reinforced. Now, if you can't find a karaoke machine, you might find some instrumental tracks online or on YouTube. Actually, you could find almost any instrumental track online. Just, search for it. There's companies that put out backtracks of just the music without the vocals. Now, all the above activities can aid in your child's brain development. As you look them over, you notice the child's having fun, there's bonding with the family, and the brain is being prepared for the educational tasks ahead. Not only can these activities be fun for the entire family, your child's musical experiences may inspire them to begin playing a musical instrument later in the child's schooling. Now, there's one more idea that I want to share with parents that is also what I call a shameless plug for a publication I helped create. Several years ago, an old college classmate and I wrote a children's songbook that teaches life lessons through song. There are songs to help children learn to brush their teeth, play outside, get proper sleep, eat right, etc. We produced MP3s. Some tracks, MP3s, will include the vocals. Some MP3s replace the vocal with a soft instrument. And there are MP3s that are just background tracks. You don't have to buy all the MP3s with the book. You can buy each MP3 separately, and each one is only around $2. You can find the book, Sing It, Dance It, Play It, Learn It, that's the name of the book, along with the individual MP3s at jwpepper.com or sevenhornspublishing.com. There are links below. You can also hear examples of each of our songs on YouTube. Just search for Sing It, Dance It, Play It, Learn It, or put my name, Boumpani, in the search engine. Or on our website at www.ellendbmusic.com. At present, we have the first volume out, and hopefully we'll have a second one out soon. I really believe it was well done, has a lot of different genres. You have rap, you have rock, you have country, you name it, it's there. All about teaching children's life lessons in easy-to-sing and learn songs. Well, thank you very much. If you like my videos, please do a like, subscribe, hit the bell. I really appreciate it. And see you next time. Thank you.